The Corvin miscalculation. For 7 millennia, the Corvin Dominion had swept across the stars like an unstoppable tide. Their crimson warships had reduced 1,000 civilizations to vassals, their technological superiority crushing all opposition. The pattern was always the same. Arrive, demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender. Resistance was futile, and extinction was the alternative. High Commander Varric stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the viewscreen. His facial tendrils twitched with mild amusement as he reviewed the intelligence reports on this Earth. The humans had barely begun reaching for the stars, with primitive outposts on their moon and neighboring planet. Their technology was centuries behind Corvin standards. Another simple conquest, Varric murmured to his second-in-command. The Hegemony Council expects this operation to be completed within 2 planetary rotations. Efficiency above all, Commander, replied Sub-Commander Neris, her voice carrying the practiced devotion of a career officer. Shall we begin with the standard demonstration? Varric flicked his hand dismissively. Deploy a single cruiser squadron to their largest population centers. Target their primitive governmental structures and military installations. The usual pattern. The orders spread through the invasion fleet, 200 warships carrying enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to molten slag. The forward cruisers broke formation, their weapons systems activating as they descended toward Earth's atmosphere. Curious, said the sensor officer. I'm detecting no orbital defenses, yet their communications indicate awareness of our approach. They've had visual confirmation of our fleet for several of their days, Neris noted. Perhaps they're preparing a ground defense. Varric laughed, a harsh clicking sound. What ground defense could possibly matter against our orbital weapons? They'll have a chance to surrender after the demonstration. Ready the broadcast systems for the terms of capitulation. On Earth, in an underground facility beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, General Diana Chen watched the approaching Corvin vessels on an advanced holographic display. Around her, the command center hummed with controlled urgency as military personnel from a dozen nations coordinated Earth's response. They're positioning exactly as predicted, she said calmly. Formation matches the Proxima Centauri probe intercepts. Dr. Elijah Montgomery, lead scientist of Project Aegis, nodded as he adjusted his glasses. The Corvin tactics haven't evolved in centuries. They've never needed to adapt. Well, they're about to learn something new, Chen replied. Activate Umbrella Protocol. All stations, prepare for first contact. Throughout the solar system, seemingly dormant satellites and asteroid installations silently powered up. 20 years of secret preparation were about to be tested. The lead Corvin cruiser, the Swift Subjugation, entered Earth's upper atmosphere, its shields easily dispersing the friction heat. Captain Lorik was already composing his victory report in his mind. These missions were always the same, efficient, decisive, and ultimately boring. Weapons locked on primary targets, his gunnery officer reported. Earth's primitive defense systems are not even attempting to track us. Begin the demonstration, Lorik ordered. Target their military headquarters in the region designated Pentagon. The cruiser's main cannon charge, gathering energy for a blast that would vaporize the target and everything within a kilometer radius. The weapon reached full power and discharge. Nothing happened. Weapon malfunction, the gunnery officer reported with confusion. Energy discharge registered, but no impact detected. Before Lorik could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared across the command deck. What's happening? He demanded. Unknown energy fields surrounding the vessel, the sensor officer replied, panic evident in his voice. It's draining our shields and weapon systems. Across Earth's atmosphere, similar scenes play out as the invasion force encountered the planet's first line of defense, the electromagnetic absorption network. Thousands of satellites and high-altitude drones created an invisible web that captured and redirected energy weapons, rendering them harmless, or in some cases, reflecting them back at their source. In low orbit, High Commander Varric watched in disbelief as the first wave of cruisers reported system failures and energy drains. This was unprecedented. No species at this development stage should possess such technology. "Deploy the main fleet," he ordered. "Full assault protocol. Whatever tricks these humans have, they cannot stand against our numbers." The Corvin fleet descended, thousands of fighter craft swarming toward Earth's surface. As they penetrated deeper into the atmosphere, they encountered the next layer of Earth's defenses. Squadrons of advanced aircraft rose to meet them. Human fighters that moved with impossible agility, equipped with weapons that shouldn't exist in such a primitive civilization. Quantum-locked projectiles bypassed Corvin shields entirely. Targeted EMP bursts disabled fighter systems without damaging the craft themselves. From hidden bases across the globe, Earth's unified defense forces engaged the invaders. What the humans lacked in numbers, they made up for with tactical brilliance and home field advantage. They had studied the Corvin for years, analyzing data from deep space probes and preparing specifically for this enemy. In his Antarctic command center, Colonel James Okonkwo directed the air defense. "They fight like they've never faced real opposition," he observed. "No adaptability, no contingency plans. Arrogance is their weakness," General Chen replied. "And preparation is our strength." The battle in the skies was merely the beginning. When Corvin ground forces deployed, hulking alien warriors in powered armor carrying disintegration rifles, they found themselves facing an enemy that had prepared for their exact tactics and technology. Human soldiers wearing specialized combat suits engaged the invaders with weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses of Corvin armor. Urban warfare specialists lured alien squads into prepared ambush zones. Most surprisingly to the invaders, civilian populations didn't panic. They enacted well-rehearsed evacuation and resistance protocols. Sub-Commander Neris reported the mounting losses to High Commander Varric, her usual composure cracking. "Commander, we've lost 30% of our ground forces and nearly half of our atmospheric fighters. The humans, they were waiting for us. They know our tactics." Varric's facial tendrils had darkened to a deep purple, a sign of rage among his species. "Impossible. They are barely into their space age. How could they possibly?" "Sir," interrupted the communications officer, "we're detecting massive energy buildups at Earth's poles." On the view screen, the ice caps of Earth seemed to shimmer as hidden installations revealed themselves. Enormous energy collectors unfolded, drawing power from the planet's magnetic field. Dr. Montgomery stood beside General Chen as they initiated Earth's most powerful defense system. "Polar array at 90% capacity," he reported. "Targeting solutions locked on their capital ships." They had their chance to leave. Chen said grimly, "Execute Operation Sunspear." Twin beams of concentrated energy, the combined output of a dozen fusion reactors, lanced from Earth's poles toward the Corvin fleet. The targeted vessel's shields flared briefly before collapsing, their hulls rupturing under the unprecedented energy assault. High Commander Varric stared in shock as a third of his fleet was disabled in a single strike. "Full retreat," he ordered. "All vessels, emergency withdrawal." But Earth wasn't finished. As the Corvin fleet attempted to disengage, they discovered their faster-than-light drives wouldn't activate. Earth had deployed a localized space-time distortion field. Technology the Corvin had believed was centuries beyond human capability. "How is this possible?" Varric demanded, slamming his fist on the command console. "They're trapped us." "Commander," Neris said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." The view screen flickered, showing the human woman in a military uniform, General Chen. "Attention Corvin invasion force. Your unprovoked attack on our world has failed. Your technology advantages have been neutralized. Your tactical playbook has been studied and countered. You have 1 hour to surrender your vessels and withdraw your forces, or we will continue dismantling your fleet piece by piece." She leaned forward slightly. "And understand this, we could have destroyed you entirely. Remember that when you report back to your hegemony." The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. "They knew we were coming," Varric whispered. "Not just knew, they prepared. Specifically for us." Neris looked at the tactical display, watching as more Corvin ships were systematically disabled by Earth's defenses. "Commander, I recommend we accept their terms. We've lost nearly half our invasion force already." For the first time in his military career, High Commander Varric faced not just defeat, but humiliation. The Corvin Dominion had never retreated, never surrendered. Yet here they were, outmaneuvered by a species that by all rights should have been easy prey. "Send the surrender signal," he finally ordered, his voice hollow. "Prepare evacuation protocols for our ground forces." As the Corvin began their withdrawal, the leaders of Earth gathered in the Antarctic Command Center to discuss their victory. What had seemed like humanity's darkest hour had instead become its finest moment, the culmination of 2 decades of unified purpose and secret preparation. "They'll be back," General Chen warned, "and they'll bring a bigger fleet next time." Dr. Montgomery nodded. "But they'll come with fear in their hearts, and we'll be even more ready." Beyond Earth's atmosphere, the crippled Corvin fleet limped away from the blue planet that had so thoroughly shattered their expectations. High Commander Varric knew that this defeat would send shockwaves through the hegemony. The impossible had happened. A supposedly primitive species had not only resisted the Corvin Dominion, but had done so decisively. As his flagship accelerated away from Earth, Varric couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just changed fundamentally. The Corvin had dominated for millennia because no one dared oppose them. Now someone had not only dared but succeeded. And for the first time, Varric felt something he had never experienced before: doubt about the future of the Dominion. Counterattack. Humanity unleash. 3 days after the failed invasion, the remnants of the Corvin fleet huddled in the shadow of Jupiter's moon Callisto, conducting emergency repairs. High Commander Varric stood before a holographic projection of his remaining officers, his posture rigid despite the crushing weight of defeat. "Status report," he demanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. 37 vessels destroyed, 62 severely damaged, Sub-Commander Neris replied. "We've lost over 20,000 ground troops. Our long-range communications array was targeted specifically. We cannot contact the hegemony." An uncomfortable silence fell over the command deck. In 7,000 years of expansion, no Corvin fleet had ever suffered such losses, let alone at the hands of a species that should have been defenseless. "The humans knew precisely where to strike," said Fleet Tactician Dovin, his aged features tight with frustration. "They didn't just get lucky. They knew our shield frequencies, our formation weaknesses, even the refresh rate of our targeting systems." "Impossible," growled Varric. "They've barely achieved spaceflight. How could they possibly?" "Commander," interrupted the sensor officer, "we're detecting approaching vessels. Human signatures." The view screen shifted to show a formation of sleek spacecraft accelerating toward their position. Unlike the primitive shuttles and rockets the intelligence reports had described, these vessels moved with the precision of advanced warships. "They're pursuing us," Neris whispered, "beyond their own world." Varric's facial tendrils darkened with rage and disbelief. This wasn't just defense. The humans were hunting them. "Battle formations," he ordered. "All functional ships, prepare to engage." The remaining Corvin warships formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons charging. They still outnumbered the human vessels, and here, away from Earth's elaborate defense systems, they might regain their advantage. The first volley of Corvin energy weapons lanced toward the human fleet. To their shock, the human vessels didn't attempt to evade. Instead, their hulls absorbed the energy attacks, glowing briefly before returning to normal. "No effect," reported the weapons officer. "They have some kind of adaptive shielding." Before the Corvin could regroup, the human vessels deployed their own weapons. Not energy beams, but thousands of small drone-like projectiles that swarmed toward the alien ships. These drones attached themselves to the Corvin hulls and began drilling, bypassing shields designed to deflect energy attacks. Aboard the lead human vessel, the UES Defiance, Admiral Keiko Tanaka watched the engagement with calculated calm. 20 years of preparation had led to this moment. Humanity's first interstellar military operation. Breach drones performing as expected, reported her tactical officer. Minimal resistance from their point-defense systems. They're still thinking conventionally, Tanaka observed. They expect us to fight the way they do. The Corvin had dominated the galaxy for millennia because their technological advantage had always been overwhelming. They had never needed to innovate or adapt. This had become their critical weakness. Humanity, by contrast, had prepared for this conflict knowing they would face a technologically superior enemy. They had developed unconventional weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter Corvin advantages. The breach drones targeted the Corvin ship's propulsion and weapons systems, disabling rather than destroying. Earth didn't want to annihilate the invaders. They wanted to capture their technology. Deploy Phase 2, Admiral Tanaka ordered. From the human vessels, larger assault craft launched toward the damaged Corvin ships. Inside were special forces teams trained for spaceboarding operations, soldiers in advanced combat suits equipped with tools specifically designed to overcome Corvin security systems. High Commander Varric watched in horror as human boarding parties breached his fleet's vessels one by one. The Corvin Marines fought fiercely, but they were overwhelmed by human tactics they had never encountered. The invaders moved with uncanny coordination, using non-lethal weapons that incapacitated without killing, preserving valuable intelligence sources. "They're taking our ships intact," Neris reported, disbelief evident in her voice. "Half the fleet is already under their control." Varric's flagship, the Inevitable Conquest, shuddered as boarding craft attached to its hull. The breach alarms screamed throughout the massive vessel. How? Varric demanded of no one in particular. How could they be so prepared? On the main view screen, a communication request flashed. With trembling hands, Varric accepted it. The screen revealed a human male in a formal military uniform. Behind him stood various officers representing different Earth nations. "High Commander Varric," the human said, "I am General Marcus Williams of the United Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed, and your retreat has been intercepted. We are taking possession of your vessels and technology as compensation for your unprovoked attack on our world." Varric's tendrils twitched with fury. "This is impossible. You cannot have developed such capabilities independently. Who has helped you? Which of our enemies?" General Williams smiled thinly. "No one helped us, Commander. We helped ourselves. 20 years ago, one of your scout ships crashed in our Arctic region. We recovered it, studied it, and prepared for the day your kind would return in force." The revelation hit Varric like a physical blow. A scout ship, lost and presumed destroyed during an early survey mission. The humans had reverse-engineered Corvin technology and developed countermeasures while the hegemony remained oblivious. "You were never the prey," Williams continued. "You were the bait. We needed your fleet to come to us, to validate our defenses and provide us with the means to reach beyond our solar system. Your arrogance made it easy." Throughout the Corvin fleet, human boarding parties secured critical systems and captured alien crew members. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a systematic acquisition operation. In orbit around Earth, a different kind of activity was taking place. Scientists and engineers were already examining the first captured Corvin vessels, cataloging technologies that would accelerate human development by centuries. Dr. Anika Singh, lead researcher of the Technological Integration Division, directed the inspection of a Corvin cruiser's faster-than-light drive. "Their propulsion system is remarkably inefficient," she noted to her team. "They haven't improved the design in thousands of years. We can already see ways to enhance the power output by at least 30%. This was the pattern across all captured Corvin technology. The aliens had relied on their early technological lead, never facing the pressure to innovate or improve. Humanity, by contrast, had always needed to adapt and overcome limitations. Back at Jupiter, the capture operation continued. High Commander Varric and his senior officers were detained and transferred to Earth for debriefing. The Corvin commander remained in a state of shock, unable to comprehend how completely his forces had been defeated. In the Antarctic Command Center, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss their unexpected victory and its implications. What had begun as a desperate defense plan had evolved into humanity's first step toward becoming an interstellar power. The Corvin fleet carried detailed star charts and navigational data, reported Admiral Tanaka. We now have maps to thousands of inhabited systems, including the location of the Corvin homeworld and their key military installations. General Chen nodded. And their communication codes. Can we access their network? Better than that, replied Dr. Montgomery. We can impersonate them. The hegemony won't know their fleet has been captured. They'll just know it's overdue for reporting. The implications were staggering. Earth now possessed not just Corvin technology, but the means to use it without immediately alerting the wider galactic community to humanity's new capabilities. We should prepare a diplomatic mission, suggested UN Secretary-General Torres. We need to establish contact with other species who might be allies against the Corvin. And we need to accelerate our military production, added General Williams. The hegemony will eventually realize what happened here. We need to be ready when they send a larger force. In the days that followed, captured Corvin vessels were studied, replicated, and improved upon. Earth's unified governments established a new agency, the Interstellar Security Council, to coordinate humanity's expansion into the galaxy. The first diplomatic missions departed within months, seeking allies among the species subjugated by the Corvin. Many of these civilizations had resigned themselves to eternal servitude, believing resistance was impossible. The news that a supposedly primitive world had defeated a Corvin invasion fleet spread like wildfire through the galactic communication networks. Meanwhile, humanity prepared for the inevitable Corvin response. Defense systems were expanded throughout the solar system. Shipyards constructed in the asteroid belt began producing vessels that combined human innovation with Corvin technology. Earth's major nations set aside their remaining differences to focus on the common threat. 6 months after the failed invasion, High Commander Varric stood at a viewport in his secured facility, watching Earth's transformed skyline. Massive construction projects were visible even from space: new cities, defense installations, and spaceports. The planet was preparing for its new role in galactic affairs with remarkable speed and unity. You still don't understand what happened, do you? Asked Dr. Montgomery, who had been assigned to interview the Corvin commander. Varric turned slowly. Your species should have been easy to conquer. You had barely reached your moon. Montgomery smiled. That's what we wanted the galaxy to think. We've been intercepting your communications for decades, studying your tactics, preparing specifically for you. The crashed scout ship gave us the technological boost, but our greatest advantage was that we knew we would be facing you while you knew nothing about us. The hegemony will send a larger fleet, Varric warned. They will not tolerate this humiliation. We're counting on it, Montgomery replied calmly. Every ship they send is another ship we'll capture and add to our forces. Every attack will only make us stronger. For the first time, Varric began to understand the full magnitude of the Corvin's miscalculation. They had attacked Earth expecting an easy conquest, but instead had awakened a sleeping giant, a species whose resourcefulness and adaptability had been forged through thousands of years of conflict and competition on their own world. The Corvin had dominated through technological superiority, but humans excelled at taking others' technology and improving upon it. The Corvin had relied on overwhelming force, but humans had mastered asymmetric warfare. The Corvin had stagnated in their millennia of unchallenged rule, while humans had always needed to innovate to survive. Your civilization will fall, Montgomery continued, not because we'll destroy you, but because we'll free every world you've subjugated. Your empire is built on fear, but you've just given the galaxy something more powerful: hope. As Dr. Montgomery left, Varric turned back to the viewport. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, he could see the flashes of light that indicated the construction of orbital shipyards and defense platforms. In just 6 months, humans had achieved what would have taken the Corvin decades. In the vast emptiness between stars, the first human explorer vessels were already accelerating toward distant systems, carrying diplomats and scientists rather than soldiers. Earth was announcing its arrival on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The message was spreading across the galaxy. The invincible Corvin had been defeated. The age of their dominion was ending. And humanity, resourceful, adaptable, determined humanity, was just getting started. High Commander Varric, once the pride of the Corvin fleet, now understood that he would be remembered for something very different. As the commander who had unleashed humanity upon an unsuspecting galaxy, he had expected to conquer a world. Instead, he had awakened a force that would transform the stars themselves.